Hey, does everybody hear me okay?
1, 1, 1, 2, 3. How are you doing, guys?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys. Oh, perfect. Let's just, well, I guess we don't have everyone yet, do we? Let me see if Danish is joining us, otherwise. I think we'll get one moment, but thank you, Sergey, for your recent overview on the kind of the history of decentralized exchanges. Right before this, that was actually well done. So watch one of your previous videos. So
it was Anton, yeah. Thanks.
yeah. So okay, guys. Okay, let's jump in. I think a really hot topic that it's kind of on the top of everyone's interest list of decentralized exchanges versus centralized exchanges. We have a lot of pioneers in both industries right here today. So we have Sergey from 1inch, I think one of the top decentralized finance DEX aggregators, and I think they've really been pioneers in the space. A personal fan, used them quite a bit. Alex from xsigma. xsigma, I think, is catching a lot of people's attention. Obviously doing a lot of work in the stablecoin exchange. And by the way, congrats on all the recent success on the recent launch. And Danish, actually a long-term friend, Danish, and has done a lot of great work with Bitcoin.com exchange, and as well as many other friends. And thank you, David, as well. So from dydx, which is a very excited new decentralized project, be able to kind of offer kind of perpetual contracts into kind of decentralized finance. So a good mix for the guys today. But guys, I'd love to kind of jump in right now and kind of go into a kind of a list of things I'd love to cover today. 2020 was the year DeFi essentially came onto the scene, and 2021's really been quite I guess a rocket ship and very exciting in its own right. Where are we going the rest of 2021? What's it? What should we expect? And I'll start with you, Sergey.
So what we will expect, thanks, yeah. What we will expect this year from a point of view is a layer 2 very soon from Optimism, what I understood. ZK Snarks following at the end of this year from my feeling. And we will see a really great performance because of the layer 2. And I hope that a lot of people will switch to decentralized solutions to just eliminate the man in the middle. Yeah, don't trust anyone. Just keep the funds on your own wallet, and you can do the same actually on in decentral manner if we will have this layer 2 solution. And for sure, we are waiting for Ethereum 2.0. It should come in the next years. And this would solve a lot of problems from our point of view. This onboarding problem, a lot of people don't understand that it's necessary to wait for the transaction, and it's not instant directly after the kind of signing it. Yeah, that's my point of view. Thanks.
No, thanks. And Alex, I'd love to kind of hear where you think that we're going in 2021 right now.
Laptop.
Alex, I think we're getting I think we don't have a great connection. Okay, I'm having personal audio problems, Alex. Let's come back to you. Maybe we can try to reconnect your connection. David, actually, on that front, 2021, where are we going right now?
Yeah, so I have to agree that I think the main theme for 2021 is really layer 2 and scalability. DYDX just last week announced the launch of our layer 2 solution for cross-margin perpetuals with Starkware based on ZK rollups. We're excited to be one of the first major DeFi players to make the jump to layer 2. I think it's clear that in its current form, Ethereum doesn't scale super well with just 15 transactions per second and hundreds of dollars in gas fees for simple transactions. So I think since last summer, since the liquidity mining kind of boom, fees have been elevated for quite some time, and excited to see kind of a number of layer 2 solutions, come to market, ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, among others that, some of which are EVM compatible, others are working on it. I think we'll continue to see a number of DeFi applications build on layer 2 and also continue to explore, other layer 1s such as, Binance Smart Chain, Algorand, Solana, Near, among others, until ETH2 really comes to market. So I think layer 2 is definitely going to be the theme, and there'll be a ton of experimentation over the next 12 months or so.
Okay, no, thank you for that, David. And Danish, maybe on the other side, as the CEO of Bitcoin.com exchange. So where do you see decentralized finance going right now? And
yeah, thanks, Tim. Great to be here. I mean, decentralized finance has really picked up over the last year or two, right? I mean, it's just obvious from this panel that I'm in the minority as a centralized exchange. So we know DeFi is like very popular. I think from a centralized exchange perspective, we still kind of pride ourselves in the fact that, yes, it's with our custody, but it is a lot safer than any smart contract that gets hacked on a daily basis, sort of thing. Plus we've got, the speed at which orders can execute and people pay less fees, etc. So there are advantages to a centralized exchange. I think, there's certain things like regulatory compliance, fiat on and off sort of stuff. But I think, over the next year, DeFi is kind of like that elephant you can't ignore. So, from our perspective, we definitely would want to see something that's a little bit more of a hybrid model. Obviously, there's layer 2 stuff, everything coming out, as all the panelists kind of mentioned. But I think hopefully over the next year or two, we'll try and bring some of the centralized exchange advantages over to the decentralized finance market, such as more fiat on-off ramps, which people like, something that's a little bit more regulatory friendly, and something that can bring our centralized liquidity onto a decentralized market, be it mirroring order books or something along those lines, but giving users that experience while in decentralized fashion.
no, thank you, David. And no, thanks, Danish. That was really good, and I think that's one of the natural challenges that decentralized DEXs have is how are they actually going to be bringing in money to the kind of ecosystem, and obviously there's a natural reason why centralized exchanges appear to still will have a major impact kind of going forward. But on just the challenges of building a decentralized exchange, and how do you go about kind of building in this kind of ecosystem right now, and especially it's evolving quite quickly. New players are emerging by the day, and just the complexity. So I guess. Alex, is your audio kind of back with us? We'd love to kind of hear your challenges of actually building.
If you can hear me, can you?
I hear you good. Yes, we hear you well.
Well, there are quite a lot of challenges, except what guys already told, because scalability of Ethereum, one of biggest frictions right now to bring a lot of people to the DEXs, because it's effectively creates a certain limit how little capital can you have in order to participate in all those DeFi ecosystem, right? Because the transaction costs like $50, it's just unfeasible to invest or change your $100. So only for big guys right now, DeFi is a thing. And when everything will move for layer 2, there would be fragmentation problem, because some of ecosystem will move for Starkware, someone will move with a ZK sync, some will move with Polygon, etc., etc. So we will expect, at least in my personal opinion, we would expect first of all some fragmentation, like someone will have asset in this chain, and this chain, and this chain, and this creates a lot of usability problems, because for people who are new in all this DeFi, it's just overwhelming. I mean, whole DeFi concept is a little bit overwhelming, right? So all those farmings, kind of no registration, so all mechanics is new. So I would expect what as the whole DeFi market evolved and new system appears, it became progressively more complex, and we will have a very big problem. How can we bring new people and explain them in a user-friendly way? Because it's just so many moving parts. It's very complicated to distinguish real decentralized solution from some fake one, kind of to separate scam from not scam, etc., etc. So I think this usability and a sense of education problem would be the biggest challenge, kind of to try to explain in user-friendly way how new people can navigate in all this very involving space.
No, I agree on a lot of those fronts. The sheer complexity, and I guess just to kind of touch on just to expand on that, Sergey or David, the complexity of how to bring people into DeFi. It's the AUM, the amount of liquidity that's actually constantly been on a daily basis entering the market is pretty substantial, but are the amount of people really coming, and are we at a point where it's becoming usable? So I'd kind of leave that out there, David or Sergey.
David, go ahead first, maybe, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so far DeFi requires a certain level of expertise, right? You need to convert your fiat into crypto, presumably on a centralized exchange. You need to then transfer those funds to a non-custodial wallet before you're really able to start broadly engaging with a bunch of DeFi projects and services. And so, I think over the last year, the user experience has improved, and people are trying to reduce kind of the barriers to entry. But I think as an industry, there's still a long way for us to go. And certainly given the pace of rapid experimentation in DeFi, I would say overall the complexity of projects has definitely increased. So, I think ultimately for DeFi to go mainstream, we need to build products that users actually want and use and fit a specific use case versus just building to build and hoping that users will come. So I think that's step number one. And then step number two, I think really reducing the amount of friction and making sure that projects are appealing to a broader audience, I think it is critical for mainstream adoption. I think things are better now than they were 12 months ago, but I think there's still a lot of opportunity for the industry to increase awareness. So I think that's point number one. And then point number two, I think it does just go back to this concept of scalability. Again, I think we, given the current ETH gas environment, DeFi is no longer accessible, I would say, to the long tail of retail who has to pay, $100 to deposit or withdraw funds and want to, make a small transaction. And so, as discussed, I think a lot of these layer 2 solutions will also help address that over the next 12 months and kind of broaden the appeal of DeFi to a larger user base.
No, thanks. Thanks. I think you hit on a number of kind of key points here, and I think I'm constantly going back to in my own mind, and as a guy who's actually building a company in this CeFi for DeFi realm as well. I think the one thing that we keep going back is we need the centralized exchanges, and we need all this infrastructure in order to give access to DeFi, and then it seems like we're going to need them on the off rails as well. So is there a point in time where essentially DEXs are not going to need centralized exchanges anymore?
I think my view is that CeFi and DeFi and CEXs and DEXs will probably, complement and coexist each other for at least the, medium term. The reality is I think centralized exchanges provide a lot of valuable services, as many are regulated fiat on-ramps for people. And so, whereas I would say the majority of DeFi protocols and DEXs do not do KYC or AML and don't have the ability to support fiat. So, I see those relationships being symbiotic, at least for the next few years. And ultimately, CeFi and DeFi are really still on the same team. We're going after the traditional financial system and getting new people to join kind of the broader crypto ecosystem. So, my view is that the relationships are quite complementary, and you'll see kind of a greater set of products and services that are at the intersection of DeFi and CeFi. But I do think, and we see this with Uniswap, where volumes on Uniswap on a daily basis are at times larger than on centralized exchanges like Coinbase. And so I do think that the viability in the long run of a centralized exchange is put into question by community-owned decentralized exchanges, and I think that dynamic is probably likely to accelerate as more projects move to layer 2 and more projects kind of have better alignment of interest between their users and owners of the protocol.
Sorry, just to jump in here, Tim. I agree with you, David. I think there is a happy medium between centralized and decentralized exchanges. I think we can coexist towards the same cause, which is what we're working towards, and so we work with DEXs quite closely as well. Many of the projects that we list also list on DEXs as well, and we kind of share volume, etc. I do think that there is a bit of so when I look at a DEX space, I really applaud our community and users, etc. It's great that Uniswap has all that volume, and when it generates a lot of that volume, etc. But I think to me, it's almost like a circular economy where one person who's already entered the market is already interacting with somebody who's already in the market, sort of thing. They've been onboarded by the centralized exchanges and payment processors to get the fiat in. But I think to really grow the size of the industry, to get new participants in, because Tim, Yield's doing really great with bridging that gap of bringing that centralized the advantages of centralized usability perspective to decentralized yield-bearing instruments and all that sort of stuff. So that's fantastic. But I think we need more of those to grow the ecosystem in general. It's not just people trading on Uniswap can trade on one inch and everybody swaps ETH from USDC to some token. We need people in the wider industry being able to just open up an app and start trading right away, or start putting their fiat in and that sort of thing. So I think there's a happy medium. I think we can all kind of test that, and we're all working towards a central goal. But I think that usability needs to really come about so that you can get your neighbor onboarded onto DeFi, your grandma to start using a DeFi product for her savings rather than going to the bank sort of thing. So I think that bridge still needs to be put into focus.
No, thanks, Anish. So I think that brings up a lot of good points right here. And this when are the people going to be ready for decentralized finance, or just DEXs overall? That not my keys, not my coins, that type of argument. So I mean, I've my own personal experiences and I build centralized fintech companies, and the crypto world is kind of my personal background, and I've never got over that barrier that people need to control their own assets, and just I think from the personal experience of just that people don't manage things properly. And so if we look at what does the future look like, I mean, I feel like the people who really can actually enter this field, that really know how to enter their keys. Of course, there's the youth that is entering this, and they will adopt very quickly. But there's some sort of barrier that are we going to ever cross? I mean, how is it? Where do we get to where we're potentially, I don't know, more than 50% of people that are in crypto will be essentially using directly decentralized exchanges and managing their own keys and their own coins that way, and or does it not get that way? So Sergey, I think you've built a very incredible product with 1inch, and where do you see that going?
So I agree that it's difficult maybe for some people to manage own funds, but I see it's in the next future that people would migrate to this idea and use it, and try to keep own funds on own wallets. We have seen a lot of hacks on the centralized exchanges, and I'm pretty sure there are some hacks which were not published yet. And of course, there are also hacks on the DeFi space, but because of teams which didn't take serious the security part of the project. So, and but if you look at the normal, like the blue chips right now on the DeFi space, like Compound, they are long-term stable without any hacks, and people are using them directly from Argent Wallet, for example, and other products. And I hope that people will manage own keys. For that, of course, you need right tools. Like you need wallets where you don't have to trust, where you are sure that the funds are safe. And there's some out there, but most of them are centralized, and still there are admin keys and possibilities to by getting hacked on the backend side. There are still possibilities that someone will lose money. So that's my point.
Yep. Yeah, I can see you still, seems like there's still quite a reliance on centralized exchanges and what you're thinking. So I don't know, does anyone, Alex, do you see a near future where that chasm is essentially crossed, where people are in masses managing their own assets?
Quite honestly, yes. Probably the tools have to involve. So because MetaMask is not really user friendly, and I think it's a leader right now in DeFi space, Trust Wallet does a very amazing job. I would like to comment on stuff what you told, that you do not really see a real need for users to manage their own keys, as I understood, because you never encounter any problems with that. Because I did. Actually, I got scammed by Binance, and hey, probably you don't see because life is back. So here's me live, Alex Levitt, and I say out loud in a conference that Binance has scammed me for 2 Ether. So I deposited 2 Ether from my wallet about 3 years ago, and up to this date, I wasn't able to withdraw my Ether. So they didn't allow me for some absolutely ridiculous reasons. And it's not that it's very often I happen situation like that, but it's once in life enough to lose absolutely complete trust for any centralized money provider, as for me. So I think more and more people will encounter some frictions and will lose money or have very huge inconvenience with centralized solutions. People will try to move for decentralized solution, even if it's less user experience friendly, even if it's less comfortable, even if it's less cheaper, right? Just because this absolutely burning feeling of losing money, of unfairness, of powerless. Because me as an individual, when I just delegate my money to some financial organization, whether it's centralized exchange or even a bank, and they took advantage of me, I feel absolutely powerless. I feel like I'm like little man, I've been able to do absolutely nothing about that. And but right now I keep 99.7% of my money in crypto. I never felt in my life such a freedom. You know, not the freedom because it just goes up. I don't really care whether it goes up or goes down, but the feeling what I'm the only person who is responsible for my own money, and not anyone in any kind of centralized exchange, not in China, not in the United States, doesn't really matter is it good or bad. Intentions are nice, but the capability what matters. Able to freeze my money. And I think the more and more people who would have some problems with centralized exchanges and have a test of freedom of decentralized solution will be like an advocate of all this like DeFi movement. And it might succeed. I see some potential kind of future where a lot of people use DeFi even with this very inconvenient user experience as for now. But the more money will come, probably the better solutions we'll have. So I see the kind of transition period where people use centralized and decentralized exchanges, but honestly, I would rather see a decentralized future than like coexistence.
So I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm all for decentralized. We at Bitcoin.com we straddle both, like as in the exchange is centralized, but our wallet, which is our primary tool, is non-custodial. Your keys, your money, you know, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that an exchange hack is justification for saying, you know, DeFi is so much better when every other protocol in DeFi is being hacked on a daily basis, right? Hundreds of millions are being lost. Just yesterday, Meerkat Finance, I think, got away with like 30 million. Well, that was a scam, obviously. But, you know, all these protocols get hacked on a daily basis. It's just so much easier to blame a centralized exchange for one hack that happens a year, sort of thing. But again, don't get me wrong. I'm all for DeFi solutions. All your keys, you know, your keys, your money, etc. But I think the hack is a poor argument to say like, oh, DeFi is so much better.
Just to be clear, I never mentioned a hack. Binance didn't hack me.
I'm just generally commenting.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I just add a few thoughts here. I mean, overall, I think that like, you know, DeFi will like increase its market share over time by reducing frictions for onboarding and working with different non-custodial wallets who are innovating on private key management. The reality is like industry insiders today, like a lot of people care about self-custody, but you know, your grandma in the vast majority of the world probably doesn't. And so I think when you can abstract a lot of that complexity away, but still provide, you know, that core property of self-custody to users, we'll be able to onboard a lot more people. Similarly, I think, you know, right now, most DEXs and most DeFi protocols, like the user experience and the UI are really, you know, hard for the average mainstream user to really wrap their heads around. You have to be pretty technically savvy to just understand what's going on, and there's no standardization whatsoever. Over time, like there will be some form of convergence where I think, you know, DeFi UI and UX will reach parity, if not supersede CeFi. You know, with our new dydx perpetual cross-margined exchange, like I honestly think we've built one of the most user experience products in DeFi by far. And we've hired kind of skilled designers to really build, an exchange that looks and feels like Robinhood, except that's fully non-custodial. And I think as an industry, that'll only improve over time. On the hacking side, like, I take Dinesh's point. Like, people have, regularly pointed out the risks of centralized exchanges in the past with them getting hacked. I think to this day, the vast majority of DeFi protocols have not been hacked, but that is the double-edged sword of open source smart contracts, where I think the most high quality projects and development teams are focused on security and increasing security guarantees, doing audits, sharing their code publicly, and allowing anyone to come in. And so, over time, as more and more protocols get hacked, people learn and they improve kind of the underlying code. But ultimately, like, in the same way, users are responsible for their keys, like, users shouldn't be putting their money in untested and unaudited projects without expecting there to be a large risk of them losing their funds. And so, I think that the onus is on the user, but over time, I think security will only improve in kind of the DeFi space as more of these things happen. And then finally, I would just say, again, I think with layer 2, like, the speed, usability, and the number of attractive products that will exist in kind of the DeFi world will only accelerate. I think whether it's new risk management tools like options platforms or tranche lending and CDOs or insurance, like, these are all tools that help, sophisticated investors better manage their risks. And you're already starting to see, like, financial primitives in these types of risk management tools emerge and grow in the space. And I think as these types of tools become more mainstream, we'll see larger adoption from sophisticated investors who understand how to manage their risk across different platforms in a more capital efficient way.
No, thanks, Dave, for adding. So guys, I think I'm echoing right now. All right, so I think we got one final question for the group. So maybe just kind of one minute. Ethereum obviously has led the charge and kind of into DeFi. It's now facing a serious competition, and love to know how you kind of see this kind of shaking out, whether it's a Cardano, Polkadot, and kind of, does Ethereum remain the winner, or does someone else emerge? And how do you prepare for this for your own personal businesses? So go ahead, Sergey. I would love to hear your thoughts.
I can start, yeah. So we see that something better than Ethereum can be only Ethereum. So we are waiting for Ethereum 2.0. Every one of us have to rethink everything, because we will get a sharded architecture with Ethereum 2.0. We can already train a little bit with Near protocol, for example. They have also proof of stake sharded architecture. So other chains are not really attractive for us. So we added support for multi-chains on 1inch, because we have seen a lot of traction on Binance chain, smart chain, because there are no projects, there's liquidity, and it makes sense to aggregate and also offer own protocol on this platform. But I don't think so. There's Ethereum killer out there.
Okay, thanks. How about you, David? Anyone that can overtake Ethereum at this point?
Look, I think it's in my mind, it's Ethereum's to lose. I think Ethereum just has the building blocks, the users, the tools that have made it successful today, and it's reached it settles at this point, billions of dollars in transactions, and has become the settlement layer for most DeFi applications and users. So I think, now you're starting to see users test and migrate to, other blockchains and sidechains. And ultimately, I think we may see kind of a multi-chain world with like interoperability solutions across different chains, with like tools to reduce the friction for developers and users to, adopt the infrastructure that best meets their needs. So, I think Ethereum will probably be the bridge among all of them, but I could see, a number of DeFi protocols support multi-chain applications in some way, shape, or form.
Thanks, David. Danish, does anyone?
Yeah, I mean, where we tend to say chain agnostic, but as we think about DeFi and venturing from an exchange perspective onto the DeFi space and seeing how we can evolve into a DeFi product as well, or at least have a swap product that's going to compete in the DeFi space. I think for us, something like Polkadot holds a lot of promise. I think Gavin's taken a lot of the stuff that he built with Ethereum and kind of optimized it to be a lot more intercompatible. I think that's going to be like the gas fee issue that's going to be resolved with Polkadot. I think the intercompatibility. I think the chain architecture that they've built with Polkadot. I think that's going to be probably the Ethereum killer. And I think he's done a good job really building that community, the tools. You can just go to the Web3 Foundation and they'll give you a ton of resources. For you to build on substrate takes like 15 minutes. You can just open it up and start coding away. And yeah, I think the interconnectivity and bridges, etc., that they're going to bring on is really going to give Ethereum a run for its money.
Well, thanks for adding that, Danish. And Alex, with building out xsigma, are you guys looking at potentially adopting other protocols that you think are potential winners?
Yes, we do. I mean, I'm not in a position of making predictions which chain would succeed, but I totally see a possibility that Ethereum will lose into smart chain competition, because think about that. Like in October of 2020, like in a peak of this hype of DeFi, well, not a peak because it still kind of goes up. MetaMask had about like a couple of million monthly active users. So I can approximate what MetaMask probably responsible for like majority of DeFi users. It's nothing, absolutely nothing in scale of finance. Like a couple of million people. If you see farm project, right, there are always about 750, maybe 1,000 farmers, right, people with capital. Like the world is large. I mean, we're like 8 billion people on this planet. And Ethereum just like with just million, like I totally see how cheaper, faster, more secure, more user-friendly chain, maybe near Avalanche, maybe something new appear, will overtake Ethereum, and we will just remember it only in our stories like in 10 years. So I wouldn't be that definitive that Ethereum like winners and already like takes everything, because it just doesn't scale. It has a lot of problems. They have a lot of solutions, but I'm not certain which chain would succeed. So therefore, our strategy just to be adaptive and try to ship fast. Basically, if any new chain would succeed, we'll try to like ship there as well and see how market will decide. But I'm not that decisive what Ethereum is like winner and not going to go away. Probably Bitcoin is, but not Ethereum.
No, thanks for bringing that in, Alex. And I kind of tend to agree with you. I think in the short term, it looks like Ethereum is the likely winner, but in 10 years' time, it is a lifetime away in crypto. So I'd like to thank you all, gentlemen. That was an excellent panel today, and appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for organizing.
Thanks, Tim.
Sure.
Thanks.